Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be doing a comparison between the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT Performance and a Tesla Model Y Performance as well. Before we get into the comparison though, I do want to mention that my car buying guide is available for sale. Link to that in the description down below if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car. And with that being said, let's just get right into the comparison. We're starting off here on the Model Y Performance, and well, it's quick. I'm gonna wait for this van to go in and punch it. So starting things off with the Tesla Model Y Performance, while I'm showing you guys the front area, I'm going to talk about some performance specs. We've got 450 horsepower and then 471 pound-feet of torque, and then an electric driving range of 303 miles. It is all-wheel drive. That's the stuff that matters, in my personal opinion. Now, you can see here with the front, decent storage space, and that's one of the nice things about Tesla is they've, nailed it from a practicality standpoint with their fronts. And I always think it's interesting the design they have with that. But it keeps it, with how they have that design, it actually keeps it pretty well insulated, which is, definitely solid, so it doesn't get too hot, too cold. Anyways, finishing things up with the front end, you can see here from a design perspective, it looks just like every other Tesla. The Model Y in particular is literally just like a stretched out Model 3 pretty much, and so it really does look like that. It's got, you can see a Tesla logo there in the center, and it's got the same headlights as the Model 3, and the front end just looks like the Model 3 but just taller. And again, aesthetics are personal opinion, but I will say that I don't think this is a particularly good-looking car. You can tell it's like, electric, aerodynamic, all that, but it's not exactly something that you look at and you go, oh, wow, that's really cool. It's just like, oh, it's there, right? Now, popping over to the Mach-E, let's quickly talk about performance figures with this. So 480 horsepower, then 634 pound-feet of torque with this Performance Edition. And then we've got about 270 miles of driving range, and then still all-wheel drive, just like the Tesla. So the Tesla has a little bit more range, but the Mustang Mach-E has more horsepower and torque. But their 0 to 60 times are like pretty much identical, and I can tell you, I try to show that with the acceleration thing. When you accelerate both of them, it pretty much feels the same with both of the vehicles, despite the power differences. So either way, you're getting a fast car. Anyways, from a front-end perspective, you can see the Mach-E definitely has a much sportier appearance, and it looks more like a normal car, if that makes sense, right? So lots of sharp, sleek lines. You can see the blacked out trim there with the parking sensors integrated into it, and then the closed-off front grille. But notice how they changed the coloration on it, so it's not all monotone in terms of the paint on the front, or should I say monochrome, right? But so then, because of the contrast, it looks more normal, and I think it just looks better from an aesthetic perspective, at least in terms of the front end of the car. And yeah, I think I've nailed it. Now, moving back over to the Model Y here from a side perspective, I kind of want to talk about wheel design, kind of focus on that. So with EVs, right, they're playing with, especially Tesla, right, making the wheels as aerodynamic as possible, and you can definitely tell that with these particular wheels, because notice it's mostly closed off, but then also making a wheel that's still relatively good looking, because again, this is an expensive luxury car, and so you want the wheel to at least look somewhat aesthetically pleasing. And then you can see here with the little camera there on the side, and then notice the door handles are flush with the bodywork. I think that's so cool. Looks really good from an aesthetic perspective, and how they're different in color, so it pops out. And I really like the side view on the Model Y, actually. I think this is probably the best angle on the car. My personal opinion is the side, because it actually looks pretty sleek, because again, it's got that aerodynamic shape. Now, popping over here to the Mach-E, so when you get the GT Performance, it doesn't give you aerodynamic wheels. These wheels look amazing. If you get a regular GT, it does have aerodynamic wheels, which don't look all that great, but again, they help out with getting a little bit more range, whereas these wheels, you're not going to get as good range, but yeah, they look good, and you can see the Brembo brakes there, which is something that the Mach-E is really solid with, is the fact that it has solid brakes, right? With Teslas, especially like the Model S Plaid really showed like the weakness with the brakes on Teslas, and the Model Y is the same thing. Like I feel like it could just use a little bit better brakes, whereas with the Mustang Mach-E, I don't get that impression. Like I feel like the stopping on it is really solid, and so that is something that the Mustang definitely has an edge over. And then again, side profile I think looks great. Got a lot of nice body lines. And then popping back over here to the Model Y again, you guys will notice here with the storage space really solid, very practical. Notice you've got tons of storage space underneath. And again, I think that's something that Tesla has just nailed, where they give you storage space everywhere. Some EV automakers, or regular automakers that are making EVs, aren't really good at making practical storage space like Tesla. So that's something that I will say that Tesla's been really good at. And other than that, pretty normal hatch area, right? And then finishing things up here with the rear of the Model Y. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the rear end styling. You got little low profile carbon fiber spoiler, and you can see the metallic flake of the paint. This white is actually a pretty nice white paint. Taillights I think look great actually on the Model 3 and the Model Y. Same taillight, right? But it's just the rest of the shape in the rear that just kind of kills it for me. Dual motors, so that you'll never know that you got the all-wheel drive version. And then you can see just how like aerodynamic everything is. Like, look underneath, and that's another thing that's pretty cool with what Tesla's done to improve range and all that. And like I said, I don't think it's great looking from the rear end perspective, but it's a vehicle, right? Now, moving from that back over to the Mach-E, you can see here with the key fob with the Mach-E. Notice you've got the little trunk release, and I'm glad it has a regular key fob. I know the Tesla key fobs, when they're in the shape of the car, is kind of cool, but then it's frustrating to use, right? I would rather just have a regular key fob like what Ford gives you with the Mach-E, so I'll take that over a credit card or a car-shaped key fob any day. But I can see storage space is great. It's not as practical as the Model Y, but it's still very practical from a storage space perspective. But yeah, I will say I think the Mach-E doesn't have as good of storage space in the rear. Rear styling, however, is significantly better. And obviously, it takes a lot of style cues from the Mustang, right? It has the same taillights, and you can see the GT badge there in the center, and then the camera there as well. And so, yeah, there's definitely some style cues from the Mustang, but I think together it just looks really good. And you guys can see there kind of like the little panel gap with the hatch. Tesla has tons of panel gaps too. Just go watch my review on that Model Y, like I did a full review. And so I guess Ford and Tesla both need to figure out their panel gap situation with their electric cars. But anyways, popping the interior here with the Model Y, relatively nice materials. But notice that very simplistic, very minimalist for the design. And then those frameless windows, so weird to see that in an SUV. And then you can see the seats, same thing. The white looks really good, but I guess my concern is just like keeping those seats clean. I just can't imagine, right? You wear the wrong pair of pants and then boom, stained. But notice fence there with the rear. And then you can see you've got, of course, the cup holder armrest, which since Tesla has that, they win, right? No, I was kidding. But always got to have those. The seats are nice, though, in terms of how they feel. And again, with the white, they look great. I'm just not sure about long-term practicality having bright white seats in a car. Now, Mach-E, I hate the door mechanism. I'm just going to be honest with that. I don't like how it functions. But the door panel, I think, looks a lot nicer than the Tesla. So material use is pretty similar, but the design is just a lot. And it's not like it's less minimalist. It just looks cooler. And then the seats, same thing. The design on the seats. So, like, this is a black seat, which doesn't pop as much as white. And it just looks so cool. If you see like a black Tesla seat, it's like, boring, right? They have to make them crazy colors to make them fun, whereas this is not a crazy color and it still looks really good. And then you can see, room back there is pretty much identical. And then still have the glass roof, just what EVs do, right? And then you can see with the vents down there and then little USBs as well. Not so practical. And, of course, cup holder armrest, which, always got to have that. Moving to the front area of the Model Y. First off with the door panel, same thing as the rear, so it's good that they carry the nice materials throughout the interior. And you can see a quick look at the mirrors and the door opening mechanism, which is definitely interesting. And then your Model Y plaque. And then same thing with the front seats, super bright white to kind of match the exterior. Got your power adjustments there on the side of the seat. You can see the padding, that's definitely solid. And then pedal layout, the pedals actually look really nice on the Model Y. And there's that before we pop back over to the Mach-E. And again, just not a fan of how the door mechanism, but really like the metallic trim again. And you can see the door panel is just as nice here as it is in the rear. And then also your window controls, you've got your mirror adjustments, memory seats, and then again, blind spot monitoring in the mirror, just like the Tesla. And then you can see you've got the GT badge right there. And then front seats. Now with the regular GT, it's got really nice seats. The Performance has these weird seats. You can see that little like extension on the top. I'm not so sure about that. So I guess my recommendation is I did the Performance because it's as comparable as it gets to the Model Y Performance. But if you're getting a Mach-E, I'd recommend getting like the regular GT just for the seats. And you know, you don't get as much as you get in the Performance, but yeah, driving both of them, they're both pretty similar in acceleration. So that's just my take on that. So maybe we need to do a comparison with those two. But anyways, popping back to the interior here of the Model Y, you can see super minimalist with the steering wheel. Like there's barely any controls on the steering wheel itself. You got like the dials on both sides, right? And the Tesla logo there in the center. And then you got your turn signal windshield wiper stalk. And then we've got the column shifter to get into gear. But yeah, other than that, not a lot happening, which I actually like. I'm okay with the fact that that's all there. But most of the stuff with the Tesla is in the infotainment system, which, for better or for worse, right? You know, it's a really good infotainment system. So you guys can see like the camera there is really solid. And as I'm going through the screen, response time is fantastic. And there's a bunch of different things to go through, right? And tons of customization, like, and you guys can see even with the glove box infotainment system. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not so sure about Tesla burying everything into the infotainment system. I think certain things it makes sense, and it does kind of give it a futuristic feel. But I feel like how they've had this set up was cool 5 or 6 years ago, but now it's kind of like everyone has big infotainment systems that have great response time. And people are kind of realizing, I don't want to have to go through 3 different menus just to open up my glove box or just to change the climate controls. And so I think that Tesla should, you know, keep the big screen, but I think they should add some physical buttons. But again, that being said, infotainment system's pretty self-explanatory. It does have a slight learning curve to it, but they've got a bunch of shortcut buttons. And again, with the tablet like response time and everything, it makes it relatively easy to use, but also it's just like plopped onto the dash. It's not even integrated at all, which, yeah, I still don't know how to feel about that. I don't think it necessarily looks good in the interior because, again, it's just like, it's not integrated whatsoever into the design of the dash or anything. And so, yeah, kind of interesting. But anyways, you can see there's not a lot to go over with the rest. Got a little charging cable there. But yeah, cup holders, and you can see the storage space with like the center console. And this one has a latch. The Model S, you have to, it's like a magnet, whereas this one actually has a latch, which is nice. But, you know, decent storage space within that. And material use throughout is nice. And then you can see here at the dash, it's super long. But again, it's just flat, minimalist, and then you've got the roof there at the top, and that's it. Like, there's not a whole lot else outside the infotainment system. Now, popping to the Mach-E, however, we got a lot more happening here. So first off, with the steering wheel, you can see really nice with the design and then the stitching and everything. I do think the Tesla steering wheel looks a little bit nicer, but notice we got a lot more controls, like cruise control on the steering wheel. Again, more physical buttons here with this vehicle. And then, of course, got turn signal windshield wiper stalk, Mustang horse there in the center. And we have a digital gauge cluster. The Model Y doesn't have this, and it annoys me so much because, you know, just having range right there on the side, knowing how fast I'm going as well. I love how it says ground speed, and then knowing what gear I'm in, right? It's super simple information, but having it right in front of me versus having to look off to the side to know how fast I'm going or range or anything, just so annoying. So yeah, that's something that I definitely like about the Mach-E. And then you can see here, camera system, like they're both pretty equal. They both have really good camera systems. So resolution's great. So I'm not going to say that one's better than the other from that perspective. And then you can see here, there's a lot that's buried into this infotainment system too, right? Like setting up like the one pedal drive and the different drive modes as well. All kind of, again, just buried into the infotainment system. But as you guys will see with the rest of the tour, there are a few more physical buttons. But I do think that, I will say this, to, you know, even things out, is I think that Ford should have included a few more physical buttons than what they have on the Mach-E. I feel like they were trying to just go after Tesla so much that they, you know, maybe copied a little bit too much. Anyways, Android Auto Apple CarPlay is another cool feature that it has, right? That's a big plus. And response time of the screen is fantastic. I guess the other thing I will mention is this is more nicely integrated than the Tesla screen, but it still is kind of like a plopped on tablet, right? It's not integrated into the dash like what you have with other Ford models. So again, you can tell that they're just kind of like, oh, well, Tesla people are okay with this, so we're just going to do it that way, right? Instead of making something that's truly kind of like in their own format. And then notice you got shortcut buttons there at the bottom, and then got a wireless phone charger and some USBs, a couple cup holders, and then notice the storage space there underneath. So it's super practical from a storage perspective. And then notice here with the parking assistance, and then we've got our transmission selector right there in dial shift form. And we've got an interesting center console armrest situation. It's like multiple layers, definitely unique, but you know, it's practical. And then regular glove box, which I appreciate, right? Not having to go to an infotainment system to open that up. And then again, I love the design and the materials throughout. There's a lot happening, but it looks really good from a design standpoint. And then we've got the full glass roof here at the top. And then in terms of pricing, so you guys can see the window sticker here. We didn't really talk about pricing with the Model Y Performance. But basically, with the Model Y Performance, you're going to start close to like $70,000 roughly. And then fully loaded, they get up to like $80,000 plus, like over $80,000 from a pricing perspective. And then this is a fully loaded Mustang Mach-E GT Performance. You guys can see just under $70,000. So fully loaded Tesla Model Y is like $10,000 more expensive than this. So definitely take that into account. That's a pretty big difference. And then I guess to fully cap things off with the comparison. So with the Tesla, the things going for it, right, is Tesla's charging network. It has a little bit better range. And, you know, since the accelerations are the same, even though the Mach-E GT Performance has more horsepower and more torque, the acceleration is the same, so it's like whatever. But then on the Mach-E GT side of things, I think it's a better looking car, better looking interior, easier to use with the interior as well. Range is so close to the Tesla that, like, you know, range anxiety pretty much is going to be the same with both of them. And again, just get the regular GT, don't get the GT Performance. That's just my personal opinion. And then from a driving perspective, even though the acceleration is similar, the Mach-E GT handles way better than the Tesla Model Y Performance. Braking is better. Everything feels better from a driving perspective. And so, again, like, the biggest appeal that I see to the Model Y Performance is Tesla's charging network. And so that really is a draw. And so it really will just depend on your kind of lifestyle. So like if you're a person that is just going to be charging at home most of the time, which is most people, then either vehicle is going to work fine, right? And the Tesla's charging network isn't really going to matter. But if you're having to do like road trips all the time and everything, that's where Tesla's charging network will kind of come in clutch. So you just have to kind of decide which group you're in. But yeah, if you're in the group that basically you're just going to charge a vehicle from home and everything, Mach-E GT, I would get that over the Model Y any day of the week. Like I said, better looking car, performance is there, and it handles better, braking's better, it looks better, interior is better, it's easier to use, and reliability so far has been better, and build quality as well. And there you go.